How is it possible that in the United States, you can go spend $500,000 getting graduate degrees from Ivy League schools and not know how to grow potatoes or not know how to feed your family? The first thing I always say is check your perfectionism at the door. This is not going to be perfect. Don't walk around inspecting leaves. You're going to have bugs and issues. This is Florida. We're in the humid subtropics. We have to learn to grow what grows here. So I'm dude, you didn't plant a food forest if you didn't include staple crops. I have children, and it is not Publix's job to feed my kids. It's not the government's job to feed my kids. I just know that if you change your yard, you change more than that.
Our potential, it's exponential.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Abundant Souls. I have Jen in the house. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell us about this homeschool event you just spoke at.
Yeah, the Florida Homeschool Convention was pretty crazy. I never realized quite how huge this was in Florida. Annually attended by 18,000 people.
No way.
Yes way. Massive.
You spoke there. That's amazing.
I did some workshops. Since COVID, homeschooling in Florida has tripled. And so the amount of interest in things like this is pretty big. So we had a booth in the exhibitor hall, and then we taught some workshops on the 8 reasons why you should do a food forest and practical steps. And
how'd it go?
We talked to 1,400 families. Had 600 show up at workshops, had 150 take home a food forest starter kit or a book. So we tried to really help people get started.
Amazing. And that's what you do?
Yeah.
Wait, so Jen, since COVID, it's tripled the homeschool.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Massive.
I mean, that makes sense.
People are just figuring out that they're not game for the system, right?
That's it.
And again, once you question one orthodoxy, you can question more, right? Like the food systems and stuff.
So let's talk about it. Yeah. And by the way, you just came out with this book, Food Forest Revolution.
Yep.
It's amazing, by the way. Seriously, guys, if literally I was highlighting it, it's just highlighting. Because anyways, it's great. You guys should check it out. And you really speak to the person who is starting from scratch, doesn't know what to do.
Yes. The book is simple. I wrote it for people who are just getting started, and the idea of food forests might be new or a little bit overwhelming. And I try to just narrow it down to the most important things, right? Why should you do this? How do you do this? What are the most important plants? Didn't want to overwhelm people with more information than they needed. So my objective was just keep it simple. How can we make this as simple as possible so it feels doable? People don't get overwhelmed and anxious and freak out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people make it more confusing than it needs to be.
Yes.
It's simple. It's hey, here's what it looks like.
Yep.
You're going to learn more along the way. It's okay.
Super simple.
You keep saying, hey, some plants, I've killed plants too. It's okay.
I've killed lots of plants. This is how I know how to help you.
But yeah, so why is this book though? Why, what are people going to get from this? And why should... Because that's where you start the book with. Why should people even have a food forest?
Yes. So it was really fun because everyone has their own reasons, right? You've got people who are really into food forests because of their bent towards environmentalism, right? And conservation. And this is, sequestering carbon and retaining water, and it's good for the earth, right? Then you've got people who are into food forest more out of food security and self-sufficiency. We want to be resilient and be able to feed our kids and not be reliant on these big systems. And then you've got people who are into it for health, right? We want to eat good foods. This is good for our body. As I began to sit down and really think about all the reasons, it was amazing how many more I discovered than just those, right?
There's a myriad of reasons.
There's so many, right? So it's good for your body, not just because you're eating clean food, but because you're exercising, right? 30 minutes of gardening is the equivalent calorie burn of 30 minutes of walking or stretching, or a Harvard study showed it's exercise, right? It's good for mental health. This is fun. People don't think about it, right? It fights mild depression, anxiety, ADHD. It lowers cortisol, lowers stress. And so it's just there's so many reasons.
Wow.
Good for our minds, good for our souls. Like, I'm telling you, I have like epiphanies out in the food forest, right? Like, I feel like I talk to God, I commune, right?
Wow.
It's good for children, right? Like, if we can get children engaged in nature, this is learning, this is science, this is botany, this is ecology, this is entomology. They're studying insects, right? Like, kids really get into this. As Joel Salatin says, you have an opportunity to give kids some chores. They need more work to do. Get them working out in the food forest,
Yeah.
right? Like haul and mulch, planting plants, having their own little garden bed. You've got, honestly, the economic reasons. People are not thinking about this. You should be thinking about this. In the last 5 years, grocery costs have risen 30%.
Wow.
What if the next 5 years, what if it's 50%? What if it's 100%, right? Like, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Inflation. Do you want to be hedged against inflation? You've got a yard. Why not swap out like ornamentals for edibles? Like,
Yeah.
that just makes sense.
Yeah. Economic too.
Economic.
Big time.
Dude, in terms of time, this might be my favorite reason as like a busy homeschool mom. The food forest is so low maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
We're using perennials, right? Like, these are like nature is just taking care of itself. I'm a lazy gardener. This is amazing. So
You keep saying that in the book
for
too.
real,
Yeah.
I am though. I am. It's funny because I endeavored to kind of write a funny gardening book, right? Like, I laughed as I wrote it. I hope people laugh while they read it.
Yeah, it has to be fun.
Yeah.
And funny.
this
It is funny, by the way. Like, don't be a diva. Don't pick diva trees.
I hate diva fruit trees. Oh my
diva
gosh.
fruit trees.
They're more likely to die. So anyway.
I like that personification. That's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, for real, like all those reasons you said, it's not out of this world that inflation does go up that high too.
Of course.
Like, you know,
it's on
if you
an
understand
upward trend. It's not
yeah.
going to go down, folks.
Yeah.
It's going to continue.
And by the way, it's better, man.
Yeah.
So
You
thank
know,
you for
there's
sharing.
no chemicals on it, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
so many reasons.
Yeah, that's the biggest take. That I'm glad you just shared all those, by the way, because there are so many.
Yes.
And that's my biggest takeaway from your book. It's like a reignite of like why we're doing this, right?
Yes. I always think, like, why is the most important question with anything, right? When I was speaking at the Homeschool Expo, I was like, okay, why do we homeschool? Why do we have children? Why do we plant fruit trees? Like, why is your most important question? If you never get to the why, nothing else that you do matters.
Yeah, there's no motivation.
Correct.
It's true.
Correct. So I wanted to like really lay the foundation. Like, this is why. Get super solid in your mind. Why. And then the doing will be easier and more fun, more gratifying.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun. Like you said, like you start to feel joyous.
Yeah.
And, like happy.
And connected. I'm telling you. So listen, during COVID, I was doing this thing, like a watermelon trial in my front yard. And there was this young neighbor kid who walked by, and I said, hello, how you doing? He said, I'm fine. I kind of felt like, you know what? I'm going to ask again. And I said, really, how are you? This kid during the COVID lockdowns had spent like weeks on his phone, just weeks, and was racked with anxiety and depression. And he actually said to me, you know, I feel so disconnected from the material world.
He said that.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah. I was like, grab a shovel. Like, and we actually like became friends. And actually he makes the most amazing like cassava cheesecake and like super cool desserts and stuff. Mm-hmm.
Cassava cheesecake.
But like the sense of disconnection, I think with technology, like parents need to really wake up. Like if our kids are spending 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day on their screens, the rates of depression, the rates of anxiety, the rates of suicide, like these are all real. These are very real, right? So if we can get kids outside in nature, getting sun, getting dopamine, right? Like all the good things, but in natural means, this is good for them.
Yeah.
We can turn our yard into a living classroom.
Mm-hmm.
This is good.
This is good.
This is good.
Turn our yard into a living classroom.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, kids shouldn't have to suffer. I remember as a kid, like I was like suffering emotionally.
Dude.
Like, and it's like supposed to be the best, you know?
I know.
And I think I was missing a lot of those pieces for whatever reason.
You come see my little boys, because I'm just convinced that like the school system, this is my own, was almost like designed with girls in mind. Like sit, be quiet, just write, read for hours. My little boys, as I left today, they're like in the canal. Like my little guy was like waist deep. I'm like, get out of there, dude. Anyway, so like they're catching critters.
Right.
They're running around. They're really like living life to the full and not like confined, right?
Amazing.
To this.
And you homeschool them, right? So
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
that's but oh my goodness, that's innate to them.
Yes.
That's innate.
Yes.
So I agree because I think that was part of it too. I'm like in a classroom confined.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you for saying that. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think a lot of people out there can relate to that. Maybe as a kid growing up,
Yeah.
not having that sense of freedom or
We're kind of sold this bill
expression.
of goods, like you put them in the school system, then, they'll go to a good college and then they'll become, this employee that goes to like a Dilbert cubicle every day and punches numbers for the man. And it's kind of like, why are we doing this? Like the system isn't even churning out entrepreneurs.
Mm-mm.
It's not churning out people who know how to engage in critical thinking. And again, it was really interesting. Joel Salatin made this connection between once you opt out of the orthodoxy, like homeschoolers are much more likely to become homesteaders than your average person because they've already opted out of one orthodoxy. You know what? Like the man saying this, I don't really think it's true. What if we actually just grew our own food? And it's funny because back in the 70s, societal rebellion looked like, partying and whatever. And today it's like, get married, have kids, buy a homestead. I mean, that's like what rebellion looks like today.
It's true.
Which is so crazy, right?
It is because it's full circle. It's like, wow, this is what we all used to do.
Yes.
And now it's like a special trendy thing.
Yes. And it's honestly kind of discouraged.
Yeah. But at least there's enthusiasm and
Dude,
interest.
this movement
At
is
least.
growing massively.
Yeah.
Massively. I even talked to friends at Zills today. Their numbers have tripled in the last 5 years.
Oh, Zill's fruit trees.
Yes.
Dude, seriously, you can't get a hold of them.
Tripled.
I'm playing. I love them.
Going
By the
from
way,
hundreds of thousands of trees to, 500, 600,000.
Yeah, tripled. Yeah,
Yeah.
They sell. Yeah, exactly. They sell. By the way, guys, whoever doesn't know who Zills is,
Yes.
we buy fruit trees for our projects. We get it from them. They're like the Costco of fruit trees.
Biggest wholesaler in Palm Beach County.
Right. They sell 1 million trees a year.
Yes. So when their numbers are triple, this is a real thing. This is a movement that is actually happening and it's being sustained. People are more interested than ever. I think COVID was this big wake-up call and people who were going to wake up are awake.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so speaking of those people, Jen,
Yeah.
because I know that's what you're great at,
Yeah.
what should they know? Like, what do they need to know before they get into this? Because they all have an idea of what it looks like or what. I don't think a lot of them actually know what it takes.
Sure.
Like, what would you say about that?
The first thing I always say is like, check your perfectionism at the door. This is not going to be perfect. Don't walk around inspecting leaves. Like you're going to have like bugs and issues. This is Florida.
Great.
We're in the
answer.
humid subtropics, right? We have to learn to grow what grows here. A lot of things we see in the grocery store were grown in a temperate environment. We are not there. There are 300,000 kinds of edible plants in the world. Only a small number are cultivated for commercial production. They're not there because they're the most delicious and nutritious. They're commercially convenient to pack and ship. They have a thick skin and a long shelf life. Why are blackberries in the store but not mulberries? Mulberries are just as sweet, more antioxidants, but they don't have a long shelf life, right?
That's right.
So with Americans, it's like you have to wake up and be willing to learn what's chaya, what's katuk, what's moringa, how do you use cassava. There has to be like a mental tenacity and willingness. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to try new things. I know it takes some courage actually to break out from what I've always known, right? What I'm comfortable with, what's familiar.
Familiarity.
But if you want to have fun growing, we are literally, I showed a map at the convention. We're in the humid subtropics. Our growing system is more akin to like Southeast Asia, like Central Africa, parts of the islands. We have lots to learn from folks who grew up in Jamaica, right? In the islands.
Philippines.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's like if we can learn to step outside of what we think things are, right? Like most of us, with yams, right? We think it's orange and it comes in a can from the store, right? But the yams we grow here are not. They're white. They're purple. Like, we just have to be.
Outcast taught me that, by the way, about that southern yams.
We got to be brave.
Yeah, we do. Thank you. And that's a great answer. Like, we have to expand our horizons or
Yes.
get exposed to more. I think about like kids, like imagine if kids grow up how everybody knows what like Trix yogurt is or name
Totally.
any staple food.
Yep.
If they just knew about katuk, like, oh, I was running through the katuk shrub.
Yep.
And I think that leads me to this one section that just blew me away in this book. Can I reference
go
it real
ahead.
quick?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know this before, and I put a little marker here. This is insane, guys. The average child in the U.S. can identify up to 1,000 corporate logos, children.
Yep.
But can't identify 10 native plants in the region where they live.
Yep.
Not even 10, yeah.
Not 10.
I mean, probably not 2 for most.
No. And we're
Like,
talking.
what's the problem with that? Like, why is that a...
Oh, I mean, it's like we live here, right? So if you want your kids, like the goal of education, they're intelligent, educated people, teaching kids how to forage or just do basic leaf identification. This is logic. This is memory. This is pattern recognition. I try to trip my kids up. I'm like showing them like a sea grape and a mayho, right? And like one is a more rounded leaf, one is a more heart-shaped leaf. They love this game, by the way.
That's a good example.
But it's like if you're in the woods with kids, showing them an oak tree and a maple tree, 9 out of 10 kids who haven't been educated cannot tell the difference between an oak leaf and a maple leaf. I think this matters. I think this is like super, super basic to understand like the natural world around us. Why would we bother memorizing all this stuff about like history and ancient civilizations? You don't know what the trees are in your yard. Like this is so basic. I'm not crazy. This is normal. Yeah.
And you know what's funny? I deal with like, you know, a lot of new gardeners and stuff, adults, and I've talked about this here, with barely any framework on plants, you know, and no plant ID, all this stuff. And it's okay. But then I think about it, I'm like, man, these are adults.
Yes.
Like, we gotta, like, why? Anyways, it's just put so much on the back burner in our society.
Yes.
You know, I feel like it's got to change.
I didn't even know a lot of this stuff until I was an adult. My kids at like kindergarten, 3rd grade know more about plants than I did after I had a bachelor's degree.
Wow.
How is it possible that in the United States, you can go spend $500,000 getting graduate degrees from Ivy League schools and not know how to grow potatoes or not know how to like feed your family? It's a little mind-bending.
In your 20-something years. Yeah. And you probably, want to know why? The real answer is probably because the Rockefellers set up the school system 100 years ago.
To dumb us down.
They said, hey, we want a nation of workers. We don't want a nation of thinkers.
Dude. The rebellion. Join the rebellion.
Let's go. Yeah, I just got chills.
Yeah.
But like, that's why it might have been intentional. It might have been calculated, which is crazy.
Yes.
But like, here we are.
If it was calculated, it's for control.
Right.
Right. Control the food, control the people. So I think there has to be a little bit, at least in me, there's a bit of a rebellious streak.
Yeah.
That like, I have children and it is not Publix's job to feed my kids. It's not the government's job to feed my kids. If we face another pandemic or any kind of disruption in the supply chain for any reason, cities are out of food in 3 days. 3 days. This is serious. Like this down the line, we could be talking about the difference between like living well and not. And so for Americans to wake up and begin to just grow their own food and do the very basic things. We're talking about like swapping out ornamentals for things that make food. This is not like a complicated choice. This is good for pollinators. This is good for people. This is good for the planet. Why not?
There's already a bunch of space that's wide open for it.
Yes.
We already tore a bunch of it down. Yeah.
Totally. And it's
easy
like
to build back up. Yeah.
our job to steward the land that belongs to us, right? And when I'm standing around with a bunch of little kids, so we're talking kindergartners, and I ask them, how should we use your backyard? What's the best stewardship if we're a manager of the land? Should we grow grass or should we grow food? every kindergartner intuitively is like, food. I mean, of course, they like want snacks from their mom all day, but it's like they know just by the nature of being innocent that growing food is the best use of land. It's Americans, adults, who've been kind of programmed to the American dream and the white picket fence and the monoculture hedge, right?
Dude, totally. It's conditioning.
It is.
And by the way, Jen, this is reminding me of the other day. I don't know if I spoke about this on the pod. I don't think so yet. This client was telling me, it's like, hey, Jack, like real quick before you go, like I just finished the garden. It's like real quick before you go, how do I get this grass under control? You know, but he was serious. Like he was so serious, like really what? And to him, and I was like, what do you mean? Like really, like what do you mean? Because for me, it's like, and what I realized it was like, I took a second. I'm like, where is he coming from really? And I think he wanted that one variety of grass. And he was like, how do I get rid of the rest? And that's where they're coming from in a lot of ways. But like to him, it was a real problem.
Right.
Like to me, it's like, I don't think about these things.
No.
But like, he's like a grown ass adult. Like maybe, am I weird for thinking that's weird?
I'm like, rip out all your grass.
Yeah.
Grass is totally pointless.
Wait, so to him, like talking to like him right now, what would you say to him? Because grass is pointless. He's like, wait, no, it's not. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're different than me, Jen.
Dude.
We're actually not different. Like, how would you convince him we're not different? And that.
I think most people want the grass for the aesthetic, right? They want the aesthetic of like the meadow or whatever.
The beauty.
And that's fine. Like leave some of that, leave patches of that. But around the perimeter of your property, like on the margins, you've got this space that you're not using. Why not plant a food forest? And if I was planting out a yard today, why would I plant grass? Like we're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars to buy sod. Then we're going to spend money to water it. We're going to cut it. We're going to harvest it. We're going to throw it away. That's insane. Anyone in the world, the third world, would think we're totally nuts, especially when we have beautiful options like perennial peanut, sunshine mimosa. I love seeing the city of Jupiter planting perennial peanut in the medians,
Me
right?
too. By Center Street.
Yes, it looks amazing. They never have to cut it. Like, why would you be planting these high maintenance options?
It's like because there was one smart person in the organization who said, guys, and made the design.
Yes.
And did it. That's all it took.
Yes.
And to your point, it is beautiful, these options.
Yes.
Like, people don't know how beautiful
it's beautiful. It's beneficial, right? They're nitrogen fixing, bringing in pollinators. Like, my yard is so full of butterflies. I'm serious. I go to other friends' yards who just have like grass and hedges, and they have no wildlife. They're like, why don't I have I'm like, what do you have that would feed the wildlife?
Jen, I'm still thinking about what you just said about what we do with the grass.
Yeah.
That is, and we pay companies. Like, I think about these companies that make so much more money than my company, which is, there's no coveting or anything, but it's just ridiculous how much resources goes towards it.
Yep.
The fertilizing too makes me crazy because then it ends up in our water.
Yep. Yep.
And it's not natural fertilizer. So.
Yep.
Anyways, wow, you're getting right to the juice, which is good, Jen. Thank you.
Fun.
Now I'm all excited. This is a good one, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we go on, I want to learn more about your speaking experience and just you met Joel Salatin.
I did.
A legend. How was that?
That was so fun.
You guys are friends now?
We're friends now.
What?
It was kind of crazy. So,
shout out Joel.
Shout out to Joel Salatin. You're the GOAT. So, I think because a lot of the homeschool folks are heading into homesteading, Joel is a more and more like requested speaker at these things, right? So he was a keynote this year along with Ginny from 1,000 Hours Outside. So there's this kind of focus on nature-based play and growing your own food, right? And so I got to, spend some time with Joel. And I think one of the things that was really interesting about our conversations was Joel Salatin, who is a New York Times bestseller, written tons of books, speaks all across the country, does radio, has a huge staff. Back at his farm in Virginia, Joel plants his own potatoes. Now, Joel is 65. He has a
Wow.
staff of, 40 something people. If he didn't want to plant his own potatoes, he doesn't need to, right?
Right.
He's not doing it because he needs to. He's doing it because he wants to maintain connection with the earth, connection with the soil, connection with the land, right?
I love that.
It's
and that's
so
just,
inspiring.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
By the way, yeah, it's because he likes it.
Mm-hmm.
He likes the connection of it all, season to season.
Yes. And we're talking about a guy who's getting on a plane to go, speak in Colorado tomorrow. So it's not like he doesn't have other things to do.
Exactly. He's successful.
But he makes
Big
it a
time.
priority.
I love that. Every
Yeah.
season to plant his potatoes.
Yes. Yeah. And he jokes about how, he can't let his wife do it because they never do well if she does it.
I love that so much, though.
Yeah.
Because he really is a legend. Like, he is the GOAT. I love it.
Yeah.
I read his books when I was traveling, and I was like, same thing. All of this makes sense.
Yes.
Where is this guy in politics or whatever, right?
Yes. Yes.
And the answer is he's so smart, he doesn't want to. He just wants to write books and plant potatoes. I love it. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But he sees the movement. And I mean, his new book, Homestead Tsunami, is all about just the massive wave of people who are coming out
Homestead
of cities
Tsunami.
and homesteading. And I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. So many people are moving down here from New York City, LA.
I've got good friends who even moved from the farms because they got 20 acres up in Tennessee and they're doing,
That's right.
cows and horses and sheep and like this is for real.
There's levels.
Yeah, there's levels.
That's true.
I'm at a lower level. We're like a urban farmstead.
We're all where we are.
Yeah.
And I just got chickens a year ago, It's like I've had them in the past or whatever, but right? Like,
Yes, poultry is a good idea.
yeah.
Yes, animals complete the system, man.
There you go.
They do.
They do. Thank you for mentioning
You've
that.
got less waste, right? Like you feel like everything you're producing out of your kitchen is having a purpose. Although it can have a purpose in compost. With chickens, you're like, get an egg tomorrow,
Yeah. People with chickens get that nothing goes to waste. They stop
Right.
freaking out about saving every little herb.
Nope.
Cutting.
Just give it to the chickens.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, this is so good. What is there anything else like you want to get into? Like food, not food?
Sure. I think the other day I was listening to Sean Ryan and he was talking about how like in culture, the man has tried to divide us so many ways, right? They try the race thing, not totally working. They try gender. They try ideology. Like, how can we divide people? It kind of feels like in culture right now, we're coming up on the final division where the last thing that really stands between people is honestly like good and evil. And it feels like in the last couple of years, people are really having to choose a side. And I don't always think that it's so black and white. Like I think that within the human heart, it's kind of complicated, right? Like I'm all about Jesus. I can't stand religion.
Yeah.
I think there are elements of religion that are just flat demonic, right?
Cool.
Like totally,
Thank you for prefacing.
totally anti-Jesus. Jesus was not about any of that.
But don't you think there are people that we all have good and evil
Yes.
in us? Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. And I think the battle, the getting to the place of healing within inside ourselves is discovering like, where do I believe lies? Where do I believe lies about myself, lies about just in general? And I think the process of kind of turning from dark to light is just replacing lies with truth. Wow. But a lot of lies come in through trauma, right? So we have to be willing to go back and look at the trauma and, okay, what did I begin to believe in this moment when I was abandoned, when I was rejected, when I thought I couldn't trust men, couldn't trust women, right? Because a lot of us live from those lies for a long time. We live in unworthiness. We live in rejection. We live and we literally expect that people will, it's almost like we attract what we expect.
Yeah.
Right?
No, this is deep. You're saying that, wow, so your place, what lies do we believe?
Oh my gosh.
Wow, that's
so many.
No, that's just so deep.
So many.
Wait,
like imagine again a person who was abused or something. So as a kid, they were touched in a way they're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Shame, right? Like I'm unworthy. I'm unlovable. I
insecurity,
So many.
you're not
Yeah,
okay
yeah,
with
yeah.
yourself.
Comparing, if they were compared to their siblings a lot, they were compared to other people, right? We can believe a lot of lies.
Those are lies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I think the process for me has been, how do we replace lies with truth? And what is truth? And for me, that book that Jesus had people inspired to write, like that actually is truth. And what's crazy about it is there's so much mystery. Like you could read this ancient book over and over and over again, and you would have never uncovered it all. You would consistently be amazed, consistently be mind blown. Again, it was interesting to me as I heard folks begin to talk about like aliens and Nephilim, that story is actually all throughout the Bible. Like there's evidence of it over and over and over again. So I do think there are really like deep, deep truths hidden in this book that culture wanted to tell you is stupid and fuddy-duddies and dumb and mythology. Don't look at it.
But it's real.
Yeah, it's
Whoa.
true.
You're talking about aliens and
Yeah.
giants and stuff.
Yeah, from Genesis
Right.
from the beginning to end. And what's amazing is in COVID, the only people who got what was going on was like people of the book. Like we've read Revelation. This all makes sense. They want us to go cashless.
Yeah.
Wait, a guy wrote about that 2,000 years ago and said all of this was going to happen. We can see it all. I don't know. It just
You think
makes
it's
sense.
yeah, okay. So you think
Yeah.
the Bible's playing out right now?
I do.
Wow.
I do.
So what do you think? You think we're in those end times?
I do. And but I
Whoa.
also think what's so cool is that people don't get layers of meaning. So
Okay.
the Bible wasn't written in English, right? It was written in other languages, in Hebrew and Aramaic and Greek. So if you look at the word saved, people want you to get saved. The Greek word is sozo. It actually means healed, delivered, and made whole. So in my view, like Jesus doesn't want you just to get saved. He wants your body healed. He wants your soul like delivered and made whole, your spirit saved. So it's like, it's a very holistic, it's actually body, mind, soul, spirit.
Wow.
It's not, we make it like, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of like deep
like
truths.
saved, right? Saved. We get caught up in that, right?
Yeah.
English, but you're actually saying it's like wholeness and
Dude,
wow,
spirit, soul, all that.
So cool.
Yeah. And again,
Yeah.
I had spiritual experiences when I was young, right? And so
Yeah. Talk about that exactly. Like what made that? Yeah. Can you talk
so
about
I've
that?
always been kind of intuitive, right? And when I was about 8 years old, I was at my great grandmother's funeral, and it might sound weird, but I could feel some like negative energy kind of in the room. And I walked out of the church, fell into an epileptic seizure. I'd never had a seizure in my life. Started having seizures every day, a couple times a day. We go to the ER. They do, MRIs, EKGs, all this testing. They tell my parents,
Whoa,
listen,
that's scary.
she's going to be epileptic the rest of her life. Oh, it was totally scary. You feel like you're dying when you're having a seizure. You won't be able to drive. These are like serious life impacts, right? So a couple months into it, my parents are like Jesus people. And someone comes up to them and says, hey, have you read the story of Jesus with a kid in the Gospels? This kid keeps falling into the fire. And basically, Jesus casts out a demon. And they said to my parents, have you ever tried praying over her using the name of Jesus during a seizure? My parents are like, no. I found out at 8 years old that if I said, leave in Jesus' name, seizures stopped. So the rest of my life, you could never convince me that it's not real. You could never convince me that it's not true, because the reason I'm not an epileptic is because there's real power in that name. And so I would get annoyed when I would hear like fuddy-duddy Christians talk about like the name of Jesus. I'm like, you people don't know what you're talking about. It's literal power. Like for me, it's the power between life and death. Like this is I go live like a functional life or I don't, right? And it was literally his name that made seizures stop. And in my view, made a demon leave.
Whoa.
So then again, the rest of my life, you can never convince me that that's not real. It's not true. It didn't happen. It did happen. I saw it. I lived it. So I've always been kind of in tune, even when I'm just like in a room with people, right? Or I think people like you and I are probably more perceptive, more intuitive. And honestly, the Bible would call that prophetic. We have an ability to kind of see what's coming down the road before other people do. And some people think we're a little weird for like even thinking about it.
Right.
But we're like, hey, maybe you should listen.
Yeah.
Like maybe we're
Wow.
seeing something that God wants us to see.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's healing energy.
Yes.
That's what.
Yes. Literal. And again, like if the Bible is true, if it's real, it's like God is an extraterrestrial. Like he's not human. So we're talking about like the most brilliant like energy in the cosmos. And literally he says like he is love. Right? And I've been reading this really interesting book about people who've had near-death experiences, people who went to heaven, had a life review, were shown a movie of their life. And the only thing that God asked them is, did you learn to love?
Wow.
Did you learn to love? And what did you do with what I gave you? Because I gave you time, right? And I gave you, right, whatever we were given. What did we do with it? And did we learn to love? Right? So I kind of think like these deep ancient truths have been co-opted by religion and by agendas and by ideology and by power and by money and by all these things that have really bastardized it and prostituted it. But I'm really interested in the purity of it. Right?
Yeah, me too. That's
Yeah.
why I love this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so how do you see it getting back there?
Dude, it's already happening.
It's happening.
It's happening. So the revival is
Grassroot.
here. The revival is here. I really think the revival is here both in Food Forest and in the purity of like the Jesus movement.
Wow.
So I'm seeing it in small places. I'm seeing it in homes. I'm seeing it in parks. I'm seeing it among young people. Do you know how many 20-somethings are getting together every week in Jupiter, in Tequesta, in North Palm Beach, in Jensen Beach, just to worship? Just to like sit on the drums, sit on the guitar, strum, learn to do prophetic worship. How do we just hear what the Spirit of God is saying and sing what he's saying? Doing prophetic art. How do we paint what God is saying? By the hundreds of thousands. These small movements are happening and they're not in neon lights. There's no smoke. There's no fog machine, but the Spirit of God is there and kids are being set free. I've had kids being like delivered of demonic oppression. If you just go on YouTube and type in from New Age, from shamanism, from Kundalini, people are being legit delivered. I've seen it myself where kids are like, honestly, as I pray over them, like they're vomiting, they're dry heaving, like things that got into places where they should not have been are coming out.
Wow.
And they're getting free. And they're getting like less depressed and less anxious and and getting clear.
Yeah.
And it's a slow process, but that's why we're here, I think.
Yeah. Wow. The ultimate divide, the final divide, you call it.
Final division.
The
Yeah.
final division. Good
yeah.
and evil.
And I think people are really going to have to choose a side. And I think they're trying to trip us up in a lot of ways, but
like actually consciously choose.
yeah.
I agree.
Yes.
What a
Yes.
trip.
Yes. Yes.
And like it's becoming more and more evident. Like to you and I, it's been evident for a little while.
Sure.
It's coming more and more and more and more evident.
And I really feel like it's love versus hate.
Wow.
It really is.
Love versus hate.
And love versus hate, right? And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of folks who like are co-opting the message of love. But if you look at their behavior and their speech, what they're showing is hate. I don't believe what you say. I believe what you do. You can tell me that you love a person, that you forgive a person. If your actions don't match your words, I'm going to believe what you do all day.
Big time. Yeah, love and hate. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. People living, either from love
Yeah.
and from grace or from,
yeah.
Something else.
I love it, Jen. And by the way, we're not perfect. Like,
No, dude. Anyone who says they're perfect is lying.
That's not
and
what
probably an asshole.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah. Yeah.
No, we're not perfect
because,
at all.
Yeah, because listen, that's not what we're up here trying to do. We're trying to
Yeah, just be real, just be genuine.
Yeah, man.
The thing I feel like I miss from other parts of the country, I used to live up in Boston. People there were more standoffish, but once they became your friend, dude, friends for life. Like super deep, super real. I feel like in South Florida, there's more of this like shallow, superficial, and it's harder for people to get vulnerable.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And
What? Yeah. But people in other places you've had experience where they go deeper.
totally.
Really?
Totally. And I mean, I think, we can be who we are anywhere.
Exactly.
So I'm going to be vulnerable and real here, even if y'all aren't. It's totally fine. But like we're not perfect, and I think the more that we're willing to be vulnerable and share our imperfections and our struggles, the more we can help people. I've been in a season of struggle, just in my own process of getting healed and delivered and all of that, and I've been honest about it, and I've been able to help other people who are going through like similar struggles because I'm not trying to hide it. I'm not trying to look perfect. I'm not trying to be like you're
the best. Yeah. You're inspiring me right now. Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. Yo, so we could talk about this all day.
Yeah.
The light, I really love it. But I want to get back to the crops real quick.
Tell me.
Because this book, it's like, all right, we went into the why.
Yes.
And then you're like, hey, here's kind of how it all works. And then you just get into like a ton of pages about the plants and the crops. And there's a whole chapter on bananas.
Yes.
So that's what I want to talk about. Yeah, like staple crops.
Yes.
What do you love to grow?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, why was there a whole chapter on bananas?
Okay. Well,
loaded question.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take staple crops first. So like a lot of people want to plant a food forest and they go buy some fruit trees and they're like, look, we have a food forest. Super cool. Fruit trees make fruit once a year. Your staple crops are what provide calories year round, right? So I'm like, dude, you didn't plant a food forest if you didn't include staple crops. I'm very dogmatic about this. So it's like, we got 4 staple crops in Florida. We got tropical potatoes, bananas, beans, and greens that are high in protein. Those are the calorie crops that are going to produce like year round, almost year round. And I kind of think too, redundancy is resilience. So we want to plant more than one, right?
Thank you for saying
more
that.
than one banana, more than one kind of tropical potato, more than one kind of high protein green. So in case you have a total crop failure on your yucca, you also planted yams and sweet potatoes and malanga, right?
And a lot of them.
And a lot of them. And, people don't realize, especially with bananas, how much you need. But I say to folks, hey, how often would you like to have a bunch of bananas? Could you use one a month, one a week? If it's one a month, you need 12 bananas.
Right.
If it's one a week, you need 52. These are real questions for me with a bunch of little kids. Like we could use bananas like every other week.
Right.
So my goal is, I think we're past 26 now, but it's like you need more than you think you do. And if you have the land, why not? What else are you doing?
Exactly.
Growing grass? That's pointless. So, why not? Why not?
You need way more. Dude, that's awesome. Redundancy is resilience.
Yes.
That's
because
good.
you can have crop failures are real. Like you can
People
screw it up. You cannot rotate your crops. You can make mistakes.
It's so simple, but like to a new gardener, they're like, hey, I want one banana. They think they covered bananas.
Oh my.
They
no.
don't, right. Like they don't understand you need way more.
Yes.
I love this. Yeah. So,
yes.
So plant way more than you need. That's good. I love it. There's the staples. There's the tubers.
Yes.
The bananas.
Yes.
High protein greens.
Yes.
And what was it? Beans?
Yes. Like, pigeon pea.
Pigeon pea.
All day.
Wing bean.
I use it so many ways, man. I use pigeon pea as like a windbreak, cold protection, right? You've got your fruit trees that are like super sensitive. Don't do great with cold. Don't do great with wind. Just plant a bunch of pigeon pea.
Yeah, pigeon pea's quick to cover it.
It's quick. It's cheap.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
What else do you use it for? Because
it's nitrogen fixing, right? So you can use it as a chop and drop, right? Obviously it's edible green like edamame, brown like lentils, makes an edible flour, brings in bees and butterflies. Like you can use it as quick privacy if you need really quick privacy in a spot. It's really versatile. And again, you can get a bag of pigeon pea or gandules from like a international supermarket for $2. So this is not like a big investment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Pigeon peas are great.
Yeah.
You use them like edamames green and use them like lentils brown.
Chili, like whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So cool. Staple crops. We covered it.
High protein greens. Yeah.
Bananas.
Yes.
I love it. And then so anyways, you get into fruits, but I think the main theme, like hitting home, what I'm hearing from you is like plant what wants to grow. What's not a diva.
Yes.
Plant what really wants to grow.
Yes. Because the route to frustration is planting what doesn't really grow here, doesn't grow well here, doesn't grow at the time that you plant it. Trips me out that like Home Depot is selling tomato plants like during the summer. This is so stupid.
Right.
Like, just make you think you're a failure. Like, go buy a tomato plant it in July, right? I mean, so it's just, you know, we have more fun when we grow what naturally wants to grow in the subtropics.
We have more fun.
Yes.
We're not frustrated, right?
Yes. Yes. It's
so good.
It's like easy.
Yeah. We want to have, like, we get excited when we see progress.
Yes.
And we see success.
Mulberries. Oh my gosh. Like, you want to do the dumbest, easiest thing ever.
You're right.
Yeah.
But by the way, down south, they get shredded by the iguanas.
Oh, dude.
We're lucky.
Dude, get yourself a gun. Like, there's no way to. People ask me all the time, like, what do you do about iguanas? I'm like, do you have a pellet gun?
Yeah.
Literally, I talked to a lady who I met at the Homeschool Expo a couple of years ago. She's in her early 70s. She lives on Lake Osborne. She's a gardener. She's bagged 297 iguanas. Forget calling iguana control. People, if you call iguana control, they're going to come shoot your iguanas for you and you're going to pay them to do it. Just let your kid get some pellet gun practice. I mean, it's good. I'm serious. It's good for local ecology.
Yeah,
the iguanas are a scourge on local ecology. It's not good. So people, there isn't a great way to deal with it other than dealing with it.
Iguanas aren't good. You're right. People, like the client the other day said, by the way, 297 iguanas.
Yeah. She's in her early 70s, guys. Can you outdo her?
That's hilarious. She's had to have hit 300.
Amazing.
By this
Oh,
episode.
yeah. She's probably like 400. Yeah, she's amazing.
I love how she counted that.
Yeah.
She has like a tally on the wall or something.
Some way she's counting. Yeah.
Dude, yeah. Like, by the way, I had a client just recently about the iguanas say like, well, like they were here, like, so I don't know.
No, they were not. I was born in
Yeah.
1984. They were not here. I grew up in West Palm Beach.
Oh, they weren't even here.
No,
then.
listen, I grew up in Lake Clark Shores. We went water skiing every weekend on the Southern Canal. Okay, the Southern Canal that runs right along 95. Iguanas were not here. They were not here. These are not native. They are not doing anything good for local ecology. Like, there's a reason that they should be eradicated. Yeah.
Wow.
So if you care about your gardens, you know.
I've
seen a couple in the farms. I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, get the guns.
I have, yeah. Because it's been
Get the guns.
It's been warm a couple seasons. That's
not
why.
good.
Yeah.
Yes, and listen, when there's a good freeze, just help nature out, okay? So I had these stunned iguanas in my yard. Totally called out my husband, like, bag these things. So, you know, just bag them, throw them in the freezer, just finish what nature started. You know, it's like they're not good. They can, I think it's lay 100 eggs. It's not good.
Yeah,
it's not good.
It's a problem.
Yeah. And if you care about growing food, you need to get rid of them.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It started with, I mentioned mulberry. They eat them. And we went down the, but
dude, put the mulberry in a good spot where you got you got your scope. So
there you go.
Try to bring them in.
Yeah. Someone at home's like really like, all right. Yeah. Like they're going to gear up now. So,
please.
yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. But yeah. I've seen them in the farms and I'm curious, like, do I want a freeze? Because
it's
my
a hard
tropical fruit trees are done.
That's like Sophie's choice.
You know, the tomatoes
we
are
need
going to die.
a freeze to kill the iguanas, but then
Right.
we got to protect our trees. That's like Sophie's choice. Yeah.
I kind of want the freeze.
Yeah, me too.
Just
I'll take
send it. Yeah.
I'd rather lose some trees than have like a scourge of iguanas in 10 years.
Oh my goodness.
Serious.
But we're on the front lines.
We are. We're like the line
Yeah,
where they
yeah.
just, for some reason,
We really
it
are.
gets colder. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Dude, so good. So what's new? What's next for you and your, like, what's happening in your food forest? What's next for your business?
Yeah. I think there's kind of a shift happening where potentially I'll be doing more kind of writing and speaking. And it's funny because on the finance side, I don't think it's quite as lucrative, but you're having a bigger impact because instead of just helping one family, you're helping hundreds of families, right? And so if I care about impact, that's what I'm doing. Also partnering with folks who have some resources for folks in the homeschool world, because there's so many people who are homeschooling who are looking for courses and classes and ways to get really practical with their kids and teach life skills. So I'm looking more into that.
Cool.
On my own farm, I'm planting an avocado grove. 'Cause I'm really tired of not having enough avocados.
Good.
I'm telling you, people, if they're strategic, first avocado that fruits is the Donnie in May. Last one that's fruiting is like February. If you plant like 5 trees, you can have them pretty much year round.
Right. The
Right?
window of, people don't know. Thank you. Yeah, that's smart. You're doing a grove.
Dude, people
Because
go
the
into
window.
a nursery and get 2 avocado trees, and the nursery sends them home with 2 of the same variety.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And I'm like, what is wrong with you people?
No.
Like, we've got summer, fall, winter, like, cover the seasons.
No, yeah. I learned quickly you got to hook them up with an early and a late.
Yes.
And then the window of harvest is way bigger.
Yes. Yes.
Cool. So what avocados are you planting? All
Dude, I love avocados.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So I'm probably planting a Donnie, a Simmons. I got a Wirtz. I got dude, you hooked me up with a crazy one from the West Coast a couple of years ago. Still need to plant that guy.
Oh,
A
no
buck.
way.
You can't get it. Don't try to go get it. You could get like a Hall, an Oro Negro. Of course, I watch Paul Neeson and all of his opinions
Shout
on
out,
avocados.
Paul. I talked to him today.
Shout out to Paul.
Shout out, Paul.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
this is coming out the day of the Mango Fest. He's having another kind
Yes. I feel like his opinions on avocados are amazing. So
of. Really?
yeah, totally. I try to take tips from people who are trying all the things.
He's in it.
Yes.
He's like, he does have a good,
Grasp.
yeah.
Totally.
Like, go to him if you want to know variety.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So trying to cover the seasons.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, keep us posted, Jen. This was a great talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
could do this all day, but
Right?
yeah, man, you were great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So more speaking, more impact. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Heck
yeah.
yeah.
It's funny. I'm bad at marketing, but Food Forest Revolution, just trying to get for people in Florida who want to do Food Forest. This is like super easy, super
Heck
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna market it right now. So
Yep.
guys, buy this on Amazon
Yep.
right now and share it with someone. Give it
Yep.
as a gift.
Totally.
Heck yeah.
The gift of food.
The gift of food.
And a mindset shift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's so much more than just, food security.
Totally. I just
Yeah.
know that like if you change your yard, you change more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah. All right, peace, guys. We'll see you next time.
We're in the garden.